Greetings, my friends. I want to thank you all for subscribing. I want to thank all of my channel members for supporting me in this endeavor to save pop culture. And if you are not subscribed, please consider supporting this channel. We need you. Thank you. Okay, I've got to try and calm down before I make this video. I have just learned that once again, Disney is ruining things that I loved in the past in order to go ahead and make new consumer product for the future. I have just learned, because I've not been on Twitter for a bit because, well, I'm very busy with some real life stuff that is really pressing me and distracting me and eating up a lot of my time. But then when I go on Twitter, what do I find? I find a notice that Disney Plus is essentially rebooting the Rocketeer and making it, guess what? Surprise, 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 woke. Just what we needed, a woke Rocketeer, ladies and gentlemen, a woke Rocketeer. Deadline says here in an article by Anthony de Alessandro, the Rocketeer making a comeback on Disney Plus, with David Oyelowo producing and circling to star, Ed Reichert penning. So, of course, you can see that our friend David Oyelowo is indeed a man of color, and he is looking to play the Rocketeer. Exclusive! Disney is reviving a cult classic favorite, The Rocketeer, with a new Disney Plus movie titled The Return of the Rocketeer. David and Jessica Oyelowo are producing under their Yoruba Saxon banner. The project, written by Ed Reichert, will also be a possible starring project for the Selma actor. Well, isn't that special? It doesn't matter that Dave Stevens, the creator of The Rocketeer, is dead and in the ground, that they're going to go ahead and now completely adulterate this wonderful tale that Dave Stevens poured his life's blood into all those many years ago. It is a classic, folks. It's not a cult classic, it's a classic. It had a great score by James Horner. It was an epic, fantastic superhero movie, one of my favorite superhero movies. It was just the right tone of sentiment, of patriotism, of heroism, of all those old-fashioned virtues that Hollywood now despises, oddly enough. And yet, there it was, The Rocketeer. It was absolutely fantastic. And they're going to go ahead and ruin it. According to this article, the original movie, released in 1991, was directed by Joe Johnston and adapted from Dave Stevens' graphic novel. In that film, which made close to $47 million at the domestic box office and became a fan fave for the studio, a young pilot stumbles onto a prototype jetpack that allows him to become a high-flying masked hero. Well, kiss all of that goodbye, folks. Kiss all of that goodbye. Now it's going to be The Return of the Rocketeer with an all-new creative directive, with Reichert's story focusing on a retired Tuskegee airman, of course, what else, who takes up the Rocketeer mantle. So this is just absolutely wonderful, isn't it? Okay, let's drill down into this. So we can no longer simply have shows that we enjoy. No, it has to be politicized. Everything has to be political. Everything has to be woke. Everything has to be a platform to talk about social change and racism, blah, 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 blah. We can't simply enjoy a TV show or a movie anymore. This makes me sick. It makes me sick, ladies and gentlemen. It makes me sick that we can turn nowhere anymore without being assaulted with propaganda from the woke wankers in Hollywood. I've said it I don't know how many times on this channel that Hollywood does not make entertainment anymore. Hollywood just makes woke propaganda. They don't view our treasured narratives, our modern myths, our geek mythology as anything more than a platform to produce the desired social change they want to inflict upon us. I love the Rocketeer. I have all sorts of Rocketeer toys. I have a statue of the Rocketeer. I have so many editions of the Rocketeer collected in the original comics. I have got a movie display on my wall of the Rocketeer flying high in better days. I thought that was something of a minor masterpiece, that film. It's something that I loved, and yet no more. Now it is simply a vehicle, a tool to go ahead and transform society. But beyond all that, beyond the wokeness, why in God's name can't they just leave these movies and TV shows alone? Why is it that kids have to be exposed to these classic properties for the first time with inferior, shoddy, woke remakes? Well, I think that answers the question right there, isn't it? Because they want to indoctrinate kids at the youngest age possible to believe as they believe, to go ahead and think the right thoughts in the right order and the right shade, to go ahead and inflict upon the world this social change that they advocate. We're already losing Snow White. We're losing The Little Mermaid. We have lost The Lion King. We have lost Aladdin. We have lost so much in our culture because it is being remade and remade and remade, recycled and recycled and recycled, rehashed and rehashed, and there won't be anything left of value for future generations. I mean, dear God in heaven, they have already desecrated the Rocketeer beyond all recognition. On Disney Junior, we went ahead and had this version of the Rocketeer. It's not even Tiny Rocketeer or Rocketeer Junior or anything, no. It's just plain the Rocketeer. So a whole generation of kids watching Disney Junior have already been exposed to a complete bastardization of what the Rocketeer was. First of all, it's a little kid. Second of all, it's a little girl. Notice the pigtails. And third of all, it's got nothing whatsoever to do with Dave Stevens' Rocketeer. They've even screwed up the helmet, the most iconic thing about the Rocketeer. They've already recycled this once. They're gonna recycle it again now. Okay, a different shade of woke. We've got a little girl flying around as the Rocketeer. That's just delightful. And now we're gonna have it's a as a little girl, it's a Tuskegee airman. It's gotta be woke, 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 woke. Checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. And meanwhile, it's the kids that suffer. Kids who have seen this as the Rocketeer for the first time will be confused at seeing the real Rocketeer, if indeed they ever see it. God knows what Disney may go ahead and put the Rocketeer in a vault somewhere so that they can go ahead and have no competition with the woke masterpieces that they are unleashing upon the public. Look at this desecration. I hardly said anything at the time. I figured, well, you know, it's over on the Disney Kid channel. Who gives a shit? And it's gonna die a quick death. But no! They go ahead, like a mama bird, they chew up the disgusting worm, which was revolting in the first place, and then they go ahead and spit it into the mouths of our willing kids, and parents aren't even paying attention. They don't know. They're not geeks like us. They're not tied into our values and to our view of pop culture. They just go ahead and they sit their kids in front of the TV so they get babysat for a while, and then this kind of filth, honestly, it gets shoveled into their heads. And who is the victim? The kids. The kids who are being fed a distorted version of what our culture is supposed to be. Our culture has got a bunch of masterpieces, and these masterpieces of art, of literature, of film, are kind of pillars upon which our civilization rests. We have common myths, common language, common reference points that bind us all together, that run through our pop culture and create a coherent narrative that we can all relate to. But now, Everything is fragmented. Everything is splintered off with this version of the Rocketeer, that version of the Rocketeer. God knows how many versions of the Rocketeer are going to exist in the future, except for the real Rocketeer, except for the real Ariel, except for the real Snow White, for God's sakes. This is a systematic dismantling of Western civilization. This is eliminating our ability to talk about the stories that we love. And it's a disgrace. Kids don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're looking at. They go ahead and they see, oh, the Rocketeer, and they turn it on, and this becomes the Rocketeer moving forward. You might say, well, the videos are still out there. Yes, but it's a slow strangling death for these properties, because kids will go ahead and see this first and think that's it. That's their Rocketeer. And then they'll look at the other movies and the original movies, the classic movies that basically came out of Western civilization. But Western civilization is essentially under assault because they are eliminating these stories from the lexicon. They are twisting these stories into something unrecognizable. And if we're not careful, they're going to do the same thing to our culture. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay vigilant and stay angry.
Ha 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 ha.